Guys, are you taking the SATs soon and wondering how you can optimize your test taking experience to squeeze all those last points out of yourself that are humanly possible? I'm going to share with you some strategies that have nothing to do with studying, but that could help you elevate your score just a little bit, help you squeeze out maybe 50 points or so if you are optimizing yourself and your whole situation when you go and you take the SAT. Before we get going though, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to our mailing list at SupertutorTV.com/subscribe, as well as to our channel by clicking subscribe below this video. You can also check out the best ACT prep course ever. It's over 50 hours of video tutoring with me. It's like private tutoring. We basically have taken the whole concept of what I do with my private tutoring students and shoved it into a video series that you guys can watch at 10 o'clock at night for like 8 hours at a time, if you so please. We're coming out with an SAT course as well this fall, so definitely sign up for that mailing list if you're interested, and we will let you know. So let's get into this. My first tip for all of you guys, this is just a general kind of strategy for you optimizing your SAT score. When you don't know what to do, or when you get stuck, or when you're having trouble, my number one general principle for the math and for the English and for the reading is when you're on the reading or the writing and language, zoom out, and when you're on the math, zoom in. And here's what I mean by this strategy. Let's say that you are on a reading passage and you're having trouble and you're down to 2 answer choices and you don't know which answer choice is the best. One of your best strategies is to zoom out. And what do I mean by zoom out? You want to zoom out and try to figure out what is the author of the passage trying to say. What is the big main idea, big idea, zoom out. Don't get so wrapped up in little detail, little detail, little detail. More than any other standardized test that I've ever seen that has a reading comprehension passage section, the new SAT is more about actually getting what the passage says than the old SAT or than a lot of other tests are. A lot of other tests are actually about creating tricky questions or something like that. But this test is about, do you get the gist of the passage? Especially, do you get the gist of the passage when something's implied and it's maybe not completely spelled out for you? You want to read between the lines. You want to think emotionally and not just logically about these passages. And you really want to get the gist or the vibe of what the author's trying to say, the attitude. That is so critical and so important on this test. And if there's one kind of way that I would say you can optimize your SAT taking, it's just kind of repeat the mantra to yourself of zoom out, step back, zoom out. Don't get so bogged down in those details. And if you do that throughout your test taking experience, I think you're going to have a better run. This also works, like I said, in the writing and language section. One of the biggest mistakes that students make on that section is they do not consider context enough. Oftentimes, if you're aware a little bit more of what's going on in the passage that you're reading and you know the main ideas, you know the general structure of the entire essay, that's going to help inform these little decisions that you're making. So zoom out on those two sections, and I think you'll find that you can optimize your test taking experience a little bit more. And then zoom in on the math. So what do we mean by zoom in on the math? A lot of times when my students have math problems, and I was just working with one yesterday, you guys read the problem and you're like, oh my God. And you get really overwhelmed because you're trying to swallow this whole big problem at once. So with the math section, one of the most like zen little things that I can tell you guys to do is just bite off your math problem one piece at a time. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Don't let yourself get psyched out. Again, this video is a lot about like your game face, your mentality, like getting in the zone, right? It's optimizing your experience. So to get in the zone, make sure you're biting off just a little piece of that math problem at a time so you don't get overwhelmed. Okay, let's move on to number 2. My second thought on how to optimize your SAT score is focus, focus, focus. When you go in for your SAT, you want to be 100% on fire focused on this test. What that means is I don't want you worrying about how you did on the last 3 problems as you go. I want you thinking your whole goal is, what does this passage mean? And what is this question asking? And what is this question asking? I want you to be in the moment. I want you to focus on every task in front of you and hit it hard and be ready for it and be ready to attack, right? Another idea to just think about is you might also consider meditating in the morning before you go in to take the SAT. There have been studies that show that if you do a little bit of meditation, this whole focus thing becomes easier. So I would recommend going on YouTube, finding some videos on meditation. It doesn't have to be anything creepy and weirdly religious. It's really just an exercise in disciplining your mind so you can bring yourself back to the task at hand. Number 3, sleep and eat. Again, if you're trying to optimize your SAT score, you want to be in your best shape, right? That means you have to rest yourself up, right? If possible, try to make sure that the week before the test you're getting sleep. I know for some of you it's not possible because you're just getting off finals and it's like, oh my God, how can you plan the SAT right after finals? But if you're taking this thing in, say, August, or in some brilliant month when you have a little break right before the test, heck, get sleep, make sure you're well rested. And eat. Food is really important. We talk about that and what to bring to the SAT. I go on forever about why you need to eat, but trust me, eat the night before, eat the morning of the test, a nice hearty breakfast, and bring lots of snacks, and you will optimize your experience. There are studies that show that when you have eaten and when your blood sugar is like on target, that you perform better on things like math tests. And if I could even add to that, it would be sleep, eat, and like be exercise for the test, like be in shape, which means you've practiced. And if possible, you've practiced like full tests the week before the test. And so you've done this like 4-hour exercise like a few times the week before so that you know exactly what you're getting into and like you've warmed up, right? The next point that I have is expect to encounter hard problems and know your plan in advance. What I mean by this is one of the mistakes that I see people make psychologically on this exam is that they let it get the best of them. Whenever a hard question comes up or a hard passage comes up and it hits them, they go, oh my God, this is so hard, and then panic sets in. So I don't want that to happen to you guys. So what I want to tell you right now is that on the SAT, you likely will at some point encounter some element that it seems freaking hard. I don't know whether it will be an essay prompt or a math question, or an entire reading passage. But whatever it is, you will encounter something that makes you go, oh my God, that's freaking hard. So now that you've been told this news, you can deal with it now instead of during the test. You can react to it now and think, okay, I'm going to encounter something that's really freaking hard. What am I going to do about that? Well, if it's a reading passage, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to skim. Or, oh, if it's a math problem, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bite it off one piece at a time, or I'm going to skip it and come back to it at the end of the test. Whatever your game plan is, and I talk about a lot of these game plans in many of our other videos that we have here on our channel, I want you to be in the driver's seat on your test experience. You're the person in charge, and you need to be making the decisions so that you control the test and the test doesn't control you. That mindset alone can save you anywhere from 10 to probably even 50 points in some cases, because that's the kind of situation that can completely derail your scores. So be careful, don't fall into it. You should be in control, not the test in control of you. And then number 5, and I know some of you aren't going to like this, don't get sick. I know it's hard to not get sick, and sometimes you can't help it, and sometimes you have your schedule and you have to take the SAT when you have to take the SAT. But if you can help it, or if you can reschedule and you have time and you have a couple more takes, I always like to have at least 2 takes of the SAT left if you're going to cancel a test. But if you feel sick and it's the first couple days of your sickness, if your head is pounding, if you're vomiting, I do not recommend taking the test, because the truth is, from my experience as a private tutor, what I see is when students are trying to take an exam when they're extremely sick, they perform generally at least 50 points lower than their typical scores are. And oftentimes it can even be 100 or 150 points lower than what we would expect of them. It also means if you're one of those people who's just kind of watching this as a total procrastinator, you haven't prepped for this test at all, and you're just hoping for the best, and you happen to be sick on test day, you might strongly consider retaking the thing when you're not sick, because you're likely capable of more. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, this was about how to optimize your SAT score. And literally, I do think these 5 tips are like literally 50 points. If you can just like go in with the right mindset, that enough can bump your score up, people, even if you don't have time to study. So this is great news for you crammers and procrastinators, which some of you might be. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time on SupertutorTV. Watch more videos if you're studying for the SAT. We've got tons of them here online. We'll put some up on the screen here. And I'll see you guys next time.